Okay, so the footy fixture turned on its ear in many ways, as indeed society has, particularly in Melbourne because of COVID. So where are we sit at the moment, Damo?
TJ, it's nowhere near as frantic this Sunday as it was last Sunday when the AFL was restructuring round 13, but there is still a lot going on. That's how it looks at the moment. The big addition is the West Coast Richmond game, brought forward from round 14 into the Sunday slot there, again at Optus Stadium. So those two teams will have their byes now in round 14. It'll mean there'll be 7 games in round 13 as opposed to the 6 initially scheduled. It will mean there's only 5 games in round 14 as they work their way through it. The first game there, much anticipated game, Port Adelaide and Geelong, still yet to get South Australian government approval for that to be held, as it was yesterday with Collingwood flying in there to play the Adelaide Crows. But again, there's every indication that will be the case.
So we'll hear from the Health Minister again?
We will, and we'll hear from her, I think,
Chief
in our
Health
show,
Officer.
Yeah.
Health Officer. Also, to the Melbourne-Collingwood game, as we learnt over the course of the weekend, moved from the MCG to the SCG, Bill, where the slide will still take place at the MCG.
Yep.
We saw yesterday Collingwood flying into Adelaide for their game, got off the plane early Adelaide time in the morning before the game, got onto a bus, and then before they actually left the airport, TJ, were forced off the bus to comply with police requirements and just to produce all sorts of ID and identification and, I'm assuming, negative COVID results, but just another layer of protocol to wade through. And look, most clubs are doing it well. The Adelaide Crows, of course, were fined officially on Friday night $50,000 for failing to fully comply when they were travelling last week without proper adherence to masks on a plane out. So that was the fine. Just probably a warning and a need to just fully tighten up on all protocols.
It's a hell of a warning, Damo, $50,000.
Yeah, it is.
So is that it there?
That's one of the stills that were taken, and the club itself referred that to the AFL.
Who took that?
I'm assuming a member of the public, but I'm not 100% sure.
Why aren't they on a charter flight? Why are they flying commercial airlines?
That was for the game that they had, I think, the previous week. Yeah.
But the thing is, Damo, like the Collingwood stuff that you showed us there, and I think they had a police escort as well, didn't they? I mean, if it's such a imposition to the current health of South Australia, why are they even allowing teams in if they're going to go to those extremes?
Yeah, look, you can ask that, can't you? But I suppose they do need to dot the I's and cross the T's, and if they do let it in, they've got to be seen to be making sure they tick every single box. And I mean, Kane, you're living it. I mean, I know you've got your own views, and you've got your own views on what happened during the week and what has happened to the Crows and other clubs going forward.
Yeah, it seems a bit extreme to me. So a lady rang up a radio station, Triple M in Adelaide, and basically dobbed on the Crows players for doing that. And we all understand players have to be seen to do the right thing, and it's pretty simple to wear your mask. But some other vision of AFL players walking through airports, Dusty Martin here not correctly wearing his face mask. Nothing to see there. We've seen Melbourne players, Christian Salem there, not wearing his face mask correctly. St Kilda players walking through not with their masks on. Yes, they've got coffees, but by the letter of the law, you can't be drinking a coffee without your face mask on unless you're sitting down. So the AFL, if they're going to crack down on Adelaide, TJ, and cost someone their job, $50,000 in the soft cap, which will be someone's job, the players won't suffer. Yeah. Let's make a blanket rule. And I think it's a big wake-up call for not just Adelaide, but the rest of the competition.
Yeah, look, I know it's got to be done, but it just does seem just so out of whack with what we're seeing in terms of numbers and all the rest of it. And even watching, the Collingwood game last night and the fact that Nathan Buckley and the coaches are in the box. They're in a box with all of their Collingwood cohorts. They're not dealing with anyone locally and still having to wear masks.
So you thought it was over the top, a police escort and then police checking all the licences at the airport?
100%.
But South Australia obviously do a good job, whereas we here in Victoria are in lockdown, so that might be the difference.
I know, but my point was, sorry, Kane, my point was don't let us in. If you're that concerned, if your levels of anxiety are so high that you have to go to those measures, then don't let us in. Let's go to Sydney.
Can I just ask you, sorry, going back a step with the fixture, when in a few weeks' time when we get games back in Melbourne, we think, what type of crowds could we potentially have?
Well, the fear is that when we do get out of lockdown, that we won't return to what was their normal 85%, even 100% of possibilities. It might be as few as 10, 15, maybe 20%, but it'll again, Lordo, be a staggered process to getting up towards some meaningful crowd number. But I'd be surprised if it's more than 20% first up, and it may not be even that high.